Hey, what's up, nerds? It is Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall, and as promised, I am going to be starting my Path to Glory campaign, and I am going to be rolling up my starting warband right now, live on the air, for all of you to see, and for, evidence for the people that I play with, so they can see that I'm not messing with my rolls in case I accidentally get a broken warband. Rules that I am setting for myself. I'm going to roll everything. I'll obviously re-roll things if I already have them. And if something is like not working narratively for some reason, I'll make some sort of a change if necessary. But the general intent is to basically roll everything, and if that doesn't work out for some reason where it like narratively doesn't make sense, then I'll roll something different. Our rules in general that we're going with for the campaign, players can pick their starting warbands and pick their champion. I'm choosing to roll mine. As I said in my intro video, if you haven't watched that yet, it's down there somewhere. I'm one of the more veteran players in our play group, so as I don't want to say a way to handicap myself, but as a way to just force myself to not power game, I am rolling my whole warband and rolling everything, even though I don't necessarily have to according to the rules. I'm using my Nurgle army, and I have all of the models that are on the warband tables, so I don't have any restrictions as far as needing to reroll if I don't own the models or having to go buy models if I don't own them. The only exception there is like if I roll something that I don't have multiples of. Like, for example, I have one Beast of Nurgle. I'm not going to go out and buy another Beast of Nurgle. So if I happen to roll that for a follower later on, like 2 Beasts of Nurgle, God forbid that happens. My warband would be awful if that happened. But if it does, I'm just going to reroll and find something else. So without further ado, trying to think of other rules real quick that we're using for this. We're not using battalions. We are using all of the allegiance abilities and hosts and whatever else that you want to call it from all of our books. I am going to opt to not use any of the new hosts from Wrath of the Everchosen so that I can roll on all of these glorious tables that I have. Because I'm going to be also rolling for artifacts, command traits, spells, all those shenanigans. I'm just letting the dice decide. So why don't we get started? Little practice roll to start off. All right, got a 3. Nice and average. Very good. So the very important roll, who is my champion going to be for this Path to Glory campaign? And it is number 1. That means my champion is a great unclean one. That's kind of awesome. Let me just write him in here. And so along with that, I'm going to get all of 2 followers, which is super exciting, I know. So this is going to be a little bit shorter because we're going to have less dice to roll. But so I get 2 followers. I have 5 additional tables for followers that I can roll on. So I'm going to roll a d6 for those tables. If I roll a 6, I'll just re-roll. I have to decide which table that I'm pulling from. So first up is table number 6. That doesn't exist, so we'll re-roll. And that is a 4. So that is from the Elite Rotbringers, which count as 2 rolls. So I get to start with a Great Unclean One and 1 unit. So this is a D3 roll, deciding whether I get Putrid Blight Kings or Puscoil Blight Lords, and I get a 1 that is a unit of Putrid Blight Kings. So just recording that there. Now I'm going to flip back in my book. And we're going to roll for what his command trait is on my Great Unclean One. And on this glorious D6 table, we get number 1, Grandfather's Blessing. Now, Grandfather's Blessing is something that I play with all the time, and it is probably the best one on the tables. So, with that in mind, I'm actually going to re-roll this because I want to play with something that I don't usually play with. So, let's see what the dice gods give me on a re-roll here. And we get a 2. That is Living Plague. At the start of your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch of your general. On a 4+, the unit being rolled for suffers 1 mortal wound, and you receive 1 contagion point. Interesting. So the Great Unclean One that I have built, the only one that I own, is armed with the Doomsday Bell and Bile Blade, which is not a combat loadout, let me tell you. And Living Plague definitely is, wanting to get him into combat. So this is going to be very interesting. Trying to get my champion into combat to try and get more contagion, try and get more mortal wounds. So we will see what happens. So command trait, Living Plague. All right, so flip the page over to my demon artifacts. And I apologize for that blinding light. That is just terrible. All right, so my demonic boons. Which of these glorious artifacts will we get on my Great Unclean One? Number 6, the Endless Gift. This is going to make for a very interesting campaign. So, the Endless Gift. At the start of the Battle Shock phase, roll a die for each mortal wound, each wound that was allocated to this model during the same turn. On a 4+, the wound is healed. So I'm going to have a nigh indestructible Great Unclean One as my champion. I can see already that this is going to be an awesome campaign because my command trait wants to just send him sailing into my opponent, and my artifact is making him heal constantly. So it's going to lead to some interesting strategic choices, I think. So just recording this down. And I am terrible at writing and talking. I always screw myself up when I write and talk. So our last thing that we have to roll for is our lore, our spell for our Great Unclean One. So in the lore of virulence, we will be getting 1, which is Favored Poxes. That is also quite interesting. So Favored Poxes casts on a 7. If successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within 14 inches of the caster and is visible to them. Subtract 1 from hit, wound, and save rolls for that unit until the caster moves, attempts to cast a spell, or is slain. So that will help make him a little more fighty. This is going to be interesting. All right. So for my starting warband, I've got my champion is a Great Unclean One, and I have 1 unit of followers, a unit of Putrid Blight Kings. My Great Unclean One is going to have the Living Plague, the Endless Gift, and his spell will be Favored Poxes. Whew, so this is going to be an interesting campaign. I'm glad I got Blight Kings off the top so that they can at least do kind of something. And that Great Unclean One, he's going to be my powerhouse. He's going to do interesting things. It's going to be really fun if he gets like really loaded up and overly powerful. Going to be really fun. Anyway, that is it for now. I managed to milk this video for like 12 minutes, rolling dice on a table. But yeah, that's it. This is going to be my warband going forward, and I'll be doing some videos in the future on how the Path to Glory League is going, what I'm rolling up, and I will talk to you all later.